Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at the new edition of Middle-earth strategy battle game. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Alright, so Games Workshop officially announced that the old edition of Middle-earth is finally getting hung up. RIP, the end of the edition. But we have a new edition on the horizon, and we also have some brand new releases coming out for the current edition or potentially the new edition. So I wanted to kind of dive into that, as there has been a lot of mixed commentary and I've gotten some false information. So I just want to slide down here to the bottom of the article and then we'll read through the whole thing. So when I made my last video with the Rise of Angmar coming out, I said that I thought it was really weird that Games Workshop was releasing a bunch of stuff for the current edition, knowing that there's a new edition on the horizon. And people were telling me all kinds of stuff, that this was going to be available for the new edition, or that the old books would be compatible with the new books. So I wanted to get right into the meat and potatoes right off the bat, and just dispel those rumors straight from Games Workshop, as that is not the case. It is RIP for the old edition. Current Middle-earth supplements. With such a comprehensive update to the game, all previous Middle-earth supplements will no longer be valid for match play, so they are dead. That doesn't stop you from using them at home, of course. The narrative scenarios contained within them will still work for playing through the stories and scenes, though many require some subtle tweaks with the new edition. And much of the hobby content, such as the building and painting guides, will still be just as useful. So as always, you can slightly adapt them for the new edition if you need to, or you can just play the old edition if you want, but they are definitely not compatible with the new edition. And then the Rise of Angmar book, the brand new book that's about to come out. The recently announced Rise of Angmar supplement was written for the current edition, and as such will also cease to be valid for match play upon the release of the new edition. So again, brand new book that's about to come out will immediately be RIP when the new edition arises. We are well aware of the short shelf life of this Rise of Angmar and wanted to make sure that you, our customers, have all the information before you purchase it. Rise of Angmar is a chance for collectors to wrap up the current edition of the game with the last supplement for it, and still contains plenty of exciting match play content that will see out the final months of the current edition. Also, the narrative scenarios featured within are some of the most exciting and dynamic we have produced, and will keep fans of narrative play going for many more months. So obviously Games Workshop buries the lead here at the very end. I just want to jump straight to it, dispel the rumors. These are not compatible with the new edition. As always, you could adapt them to still be compatible for fun with your friends. You could continue playing the old edition, but these are 100% for the current edition and will cease to be valid with the new edition straight from Games Workshop. So that being said, let's take a look at what Games Workshop has to say about the new edition. The road goes ever on and on, the next edition of Middle-earth strategy battle game. Welcome to The Road Goes Ever On and On, our regular blog covering all things Middle-earth. If you've been keeping an eye on the Warhammer community recently, you'll know that the new edition of Middle-earth strategy battle game is on the horizon. So we tracked down the Middle-earth team to see what they could share about the biggest update the game has seen in a long time. Alright, so this is definitely interesting. Hopefully they'll share some of the changes, what we can expect. The next edition. As you may have heard, the new edition will focus on the upcoming Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim. This is an incredibly exciting prospect. It's the first new movie we've been able to work on since The Hobbit motion picture trilogy. Whilst we can't go into too many details just yet, more in the coming weeks, you'll find a taster of what you can expect for the next edition below. The entire core rules have been rewritten in an effort to streamline and modernize both the way that the rules are presented and the game itself. Clearer language, consistent terminology, and making the rules easier to follow have been the priorities. And a selection of new rules have been added to inject even more narrative flavor into the game. Okay, so I gotta say, based on what I've heard from Lord of the Rings, and I have never played this is not good. Because what everybody says is the current edition, the actual rule set for the game, is the best game that Games Workshop has produced. The rules are awesome. So the idea that they have completely rewritten them is definitely a bad sign from the feedback I've gotten from existing players and collectors alike. Now, it doesn't mean they won't be good. It doesn't mean they won't be better. But the fact that they're rewriting the rules from the ground up means it's going to be a completely new game. There were a number of things we wanted to tackle, but the important thing to point out is that for those amongst us who have been playing for many years, the new edition will still play like the game we all know and love. We are always listening to what the fans of the Middle-earth strategy battle game have to say, and much of the work that's gone into the new edition has been trying to bring your feedback to the game where we can, explains lead game developer Jay. There are no major changes to the core mechanics of the game, which have stayed the same since the game's first release back in 2001. The new edition will build on the solid foundations of the past. That isn't to say that there aren't some minor changes. There is always room for improvement, and we in the Middle-earth team have spent a great deal of time working on the edition to provide what we believe to be the very best version of the Middle-earth strategy battle game to date. In this edition, the team has also taken the opportunity to streamline and remove as much unnecessary complexity as possible to create a smoother experience for players. Okay, so overall sounds like some positive improvements. The likes of the in the way chart that states different values for different obstacles and special strikes are good examples of this, Jay says. The in the way chart was one of the most seldom used, if not forgotten entirely, so we've done away with it. In the ways tests are now passed by rolling a 4-up. Special strikes, on the other hand, we found many people simply weren't interacting with, or were trying to bend to gain an in-game advantage that wasn't intended, so they're sailing off to the west. All hand weapons are now the same, regardless of whether they were swords, axes, maces, or clubs. This also means that players are free to convert their models to carry whatever hand weapon they wish. There is also greater focus on narrative armies than before, especially in match play. The Middle-earth strategy battle game centers around key stories from the movies and books, and allowing players to recreate these scenes and armies on the tabletop is a key part of the game experience. Every profile in the game is split into a series of army lists, each designed to focus on a particular scene, battle, or group of characters from the movies or books, and each with their own flavorful special rules. The aim is to have every army feel like an iconic scene, and to invoke the wonderful world and themes of the Middle-earth. Jay explains, the current edition introduced legendary legions, special army lists that represent key armies and events from the page and screen. These proved to be widely popular with fans, so we've taken this concept one step further. Now every army list will be presented in the same manner as legendary legions, ensuring that every army fits the theme of Middle-earth. There are loads of these to choose from, and we have taken great care to make sure that there is a scene in the movie showcasing characters fighting alongside one another, then there is an appropriate army list to represent that on the tabletop. For players that like to find the most potent combinations, fear not. Many of the army lists will provide ample opportunity for you to try out your combinations and see what you can come up with. As part of this greater focus on the narrative, every profile has been reworked and many characters have received updated and new abilities to better represent them on the battlefield. Jay continues, this isn't to say that every profile has drastically changed. More that we've taken the opportunity to rebalance many of them, add extra flavor, or simply see if we can tweak how they work better to represent the characters on the battlefield. In many cases, the profiles will still function in the same way, however they will have updated wording in their rules to fit in the new edition to make them clearer for players to understand. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. One thing we have looked at is the distribution of fight values, something that fans have been asking about for a long time. There are a lot of models with a 3 to 6 inch range of fight values, making it quite congested. While we haven't changed the maximum value, fight value still caps at 10, we have taken the opportunity to spread out the fight values to the 3 to 6 range, and even a few beyond. This means profiles that would have been considered to be the top of the fight value 3 will see themselves bumped up to fight value 4, and those at the top of the fight value 4 will see themselves bump up to fight value 5, and so on. This is applied to both heroes and warriors, so you may well see some fan favorites being a bit more potent in the next edition. There will also be a new intelligence characteristic which will work with much the same way as courage. In the current edition, a model's courage characteristic is often used arbitrarily to make tests that feel a bit odd, such as seeing if a model has the wits to spot an invisible ring bearer. In the new edition, these sort of tests will be taken with the model's intelligence characteristic instead. No more will the blood-crazed Uruk-hai berserker suddenly be experts in spotting invisible models. Finally, we have added a number of new thematic special rules for various profiles, helping to invoke their characteristics from the films and make them feel even more like they did on screen. Sam can now use his frying pan in combat, Lurtz can potentially shrug off wounds, and Isildur can potentially wield the shards of Narsil should Elendil be slain. Okay, so overall sounds like some positive changes, some improvements on the game. It should still play like it did in the past, but it is definitely a new edition. With added stats, changes to the existing armies, how you build them, how you play them. It definitely sounds like Games Workshop has taken in a lot of the suggestions from like the active players in the game and made improvements and changed some of the game mechanics to reflect that. So what does this mean for Middle-earth? Upon release of the new edition, 2 supplements will be available. Armies of the Lord of the Rings and Armies of the Hobbit. Each of these will focus solely on heroes, villains, warriors, creatures, and armies from their respective films. But what about anything that isn't directly in the films? We hear your cry. Fear not, young Hobbit, an additional supplement will be released a short while later entitled Armies of the Middle-earth, which will focus on the profiles that do not feature in the films themselves. writing an entire new edition and reworking every profile has proved to be a Mumax-sized task. So to make sure that everything is as good as it can be, this supplement will arrive a little later than the others, but still precisely when it's meant to. Legacies of Middle-earth. The Middle-earth strategy battle game has been going strong now for 20 years, and as a result has had many years of profiles and miniatures. To continue supporting the game and bringing you amazing new miniatures, some older profiles are going to have to make way in order for new, exciting miniatures to be flourished. These will not feature in any of the supplements. However, they will feature in the Legacies of the Middle-earth, a PDF which can be available for download for free at the same time the Armies of Middle-earth is released. This PDF will contain the updated rules for all the profiles to fit with the new edition and will also have a selection of army lists for you to use with these profiles. While profiles and army lists in the Legacies of Middle-earth PDF will no longer be legal for official Games Workshop run Middle-earth strategy battle games, tournament organizers are still absolutely welcome to allow them in their own independent tournaments and gaming weekends. And of course, you can use them at home or on the gaming clubs. Alright, and then we get into the stuff that we already talked about. And then just a little wrap up here. However, as the release of Rise of Angmar comes to a close in the new edition, there will also be free Armies of Angmar and Angmar PDF available to download upon the launch of the new edition, containing the rules for using these profiles' associated army lists for both Arnor and Angmar, so that anyone who purchases the new models doesn't have to wait for the Armies of Middle-earth to be able to field them in the new edition. The August Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game FAQ. With the next edition so close, we have made the decision to not release our usual FAQ and designer's commentary in August. Don't worry, we'll be back on schedule in February and our usual updates for the first new edition. Alright, so it sounds like the new edition is coming sometime around like the end of the year. We'll be providing plenty more updates in the coming weeks and months, so keep your eyes peeled on Warhammer community for all the details. Alright, so I do like that Games Workshop officially addressed this. It sounds like they're basically doing like a Legends type situation as we've seen in 40k and Sigmar. A lot of the old stuff is going to be going away for competitive play. Obviously, tournament organizers outside of Games Workshop or local clubs can choose to use whatever they want. There will be updated rules. Overall, it sounds like a lot of improvements to the game. Hopefully they don't change how it plays too much, as everything I've heard from people is just how great the actual game is. There's sort of some contradictory statements from Games Workshop here, as they said they've reworked the game from the ground up, but then they've also said that they're using the existing sort of gameplay and just making it a little more clear, a little more simple, a little more fluid. So optimistically, I have to say this is a good thing. I know a lot of people that have been playing this game for a long time will probably perceive it as a bad thing, but not all change is bad. It's definitely still a little bit strange that Games Workshop is releasing like new books and content that you have to buy right at the end of an edition that's been going on for so long. But also it makes sense for the people out there that are collectors or may want to still play the old edition of the game, that they get their series completed before the new edition arises. So let me know what you guys think down below. Are you excited for the new edition? Are you just going to stay with the old edition? Obviously the end of the edition can be a little bit daunting, especially if you've been playing something for a long time. But I like to think that the improvements to the new edition, hopefully they don't make too many changes, are going to make for a better game overall. As always, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the channel. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on most Games Workshop products. Make sure to tell them Warhammer Man sent you. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and RIP for Middle-earth, but it looks like the new edition is going to rise from its ashes. And I'm out of here.